Senegal, officially the Republic of Senegal, is a country in West Africa. Senegal's economical and political capital is Dakar. It is the westernmost country in the mainland of the Old World, or Eurasia, and owes its name to the Senegal River, which borders it to the east and north. The name Senegal comes from the Wolof Senegal, which means our boat. Senegal covers a land area of almost 197,000 square kilometers and has an estimated population of about 13 million. The climate is Sahelian, but there is a rainy season. Cultures and influences. The territory of modern Senegal has been inhabited by various ethnic groups since the prehistoric era. Organized kingdoms emerged around the 7th century, and parts of the country were ruled by prominent regional empires such as the Wolof. The present state of Senegal has its roots in European colonialism, which began during the mid-15th century, when various European powers began competing for trade in the area. The establishment of coastal trading posts gradually gave way to control of the mainland, culminating in French rule of the area by the 19th century, albeit amid much local resistance. Senegal peacefully attained independence from France in 1960, and has since been among the more politically stable countries in Africa. Senegal's economy is centered mostly on commodities and natural resources. Major industries are fish processing, phosphate mining, fertilizer production, petroleum refining, construction materials, ship construction and repair. Like most African nations, agriculture is a major sector, with Senegal producing several important cash crops, including peanuts, sugarcane, cotton, green beans, tomatoes, melons, and mangoes. Owing to its relative stability, tourism and hospitality are also burgeoning sectors. A multi-ethnic and secular nation, Senegal is predominantly Sunni Muslim with Sufi and animist influences. French is the official language, although many native languages are spoken and recognized. Since April 2012, Senegal's president has been Macky Sall. Senegal has been a member of the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie since 1970. Etymology. Senegal is named after the Senegal River, the etymology of which is contested. One popular theory is that it stems from the Wolof phrase Senegal, which means our canoe, resulting from a miscommunication between 15th-century Portuguese sailors and Wolof fishermen. The our canoe theory has been popularly embraced in modern Senegal for its charm, and its use in appeals to national solidarity are frequently heard in the media. Modern historians believe the name probably refers to the Berber Zenaga people, who lived on the northern side of the river. A competing theory is that it derives from the medieval town of Sangana, described by the Arab geographer al-Bakri in 1068 as located by the mouth of the river. Some Sira people from the south believe the river's name is derived from the compound of the Sira term Sina and Ogal. History. Early and pre-colonial eras archaeological findings throughout the area indicate that Senegal was inhabited in prehistoric times and has been continuously occupied by various ethnic groups. Some kingdoms were created around the 7th century. Takrour in the 9th century, Namandiru and the Jolif Empire during the 13th and 14th centuries. Eastern Senegal was once part of the Ghana Empire. Islam was introduced through Tukola and Soninka contact with the Hypo-Saharan Almoravid dynasty, who in turn propagated it. The Almoravids, with the help of Tukola allies, used military force for conversion. This movement faced resistance from ethnicities of traditional religions, the Seras in particular. In the 13th and 14th centuries, the area came under the influence of the empires to the east. The Jolif Empire of Senegal was also founded during this time. In the Senegambia region, between 1300 and 1900, close to one-third of the population was enslaved. typically as a result of captives taken in warfare. In the 14th century, the Jolif Empire grew powerful, having united Kayur and the kingdoms of Baol, Sine, Saloum, Valo, Future and Bambouk. The empire was a voluntary confederacy of various states rather than an empire built on military conquest. The empire was founded by Diadian Endia, a part Zira and part Tukola, who was able to form a coalition with many ethnicities, but collapsed around 1549 with the defeat and killing of Lele Faulafake by Amari no Sobel fall. Colonial era. In the mid-15th century, the Portuguese landed on the Senegal coastline, followed by traders representing other countries, including the French. Various European powers, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Great Britain, competed for trade in the area from the 15th century onward. In 1677, France gained control of what had become a minor departure point in the Atlantic slave trade, the island of Gorée next to modern Dakar, used as a base to purchase slaves from the warring chiefdoms on the mainland. European missionaries introduced Christianity to Senegal and the Casamonts in the 19th century. It was only in the 1850s that the French began to expand onto the Senegalese mainland. They had abolished slavery and promoted an abolitionist doctrine, adding native kingdoms like the Valo, Kayur, Baol, and Jolif Empire. French colonists progressively invaded and took over all the kingdoms except Sine and Saloum under Governor Louis Faidherbe. Senegalese resistance to the French expansion and curtailing of their lucrative slave trade was led in part by Lat Dior, Damil of Kayur, and Maada Senecumber and Dauphin Famic Diouf, the Maada Seneg of Sine, resulting in the Battle of Logandim. Independence. On the 4th of April 1959, Senegal and the French Sudan merged to form the Mali Federation, which became fully independent on the 20th of June 1960. As a result of the independence and the transfer of power agreement signed with France on the 4th of April 1960. Due to internal political difficulties, the federation broke up on the 20th of August, when Senegal and French Sudan each proclaimed independence. Léopold Sédar Senghor was proclaimed Senegal's first president in September 1960. Senghor was a very well-read man, educated in France. He was a poet, a philosopher and personally drafted the Senegalese national anthem, Pinces tous vos coeurs, frappez les balafons. Pro-African, he advocated a brand of African socialism. In 1980, President Senghor decided to retire from politics. The next year, he transferred power in 1981 to his hand-picked successor, Abdou Diouf. Former Prime Minister Mamadou Dia, who was Senghor's rival, ran for election in 1983 against Diouf but lost. Senghor moved to France, where he died at the age of 96. Senegal joined with the Gambia to form the nominal Senegambia Confederation on 1 February 1982. However, the union was dissolved in 1989. Despite peace talks, a southern separatist group in the Casamonts region has clashed sporadically with government forces since 1982 in the Casamonts conflict. In the early 21st century, violence has subsided and President Macky Sall held talks with rebels in Rome in December 2012. Abdou Diouf was president between 1981 and 2000. He encouraged broader political participation, reduced government involvement in the economy, and widened Senegal's diplomatic engagements, particularly with other developing nations. Domestic politics on occasion spilled over into street violence, border tensions, and a violent separatist movement in the southern region of the Casamonts. Nevertheless, Senegal's commitment to democracy and human rights strengthened. Abdou Diouf served 4 terms as president. Senegal experienced its second peaceful transition of power, and its first from one political party to another. On 30 December 2004, President Wade announced that he would sign a peace treaty with the separatist group in the Casamonts region. This, however, has yet to be implemented. There was a round of talks in 2005, but the results have not yet yielded a resolution. Politics. Senegal is a republic with a presidency. The president is elected every 5 years as of 2001, previously being 7 years, by adult voters. The first president, Léopold Sédar Senghor, was a poet and writer, and was the first African elected to the Académie Française. Senegal's second president, Abdou Diouf, is the current general secretary of the Organisation de la Francophonie. The third president was Abdoulaye Wade, a lawyer. The current president is Macky Sall, elected in March 2012. Senegal has more than 80 political parties. The unicameral parliament consists of the National Assembly, which has 150 seats. An independent judiciary also exists in Senegal. The nation's highest courts that deal with business issues are the Constitutional Council and the Court of Justice, members of which are named by the president. Political culture. Currently, Senegal has a quasi-democratic political culture, one of the more successful post-colonial democratic transitions in Africa. Local administrators are appointed by, and responsible to, the president. The marabouts, religious leaders of the various Senegalese Muslim brotherhoods, also exercise a strong political influence in the country, especially during Wade's presidency. In 2009, however, Freedom House downgraded Senegal's status from free to partially free, based on increased centralization of power in the executive. However, it has since recovered its free status by 2014. In 2008, Senegal finished in 12th position on the Ibrahim Index of African Governance. The Ibrahim Index is a comprehensive measure of African governance, based on a number of different variables which reflect the success with which governments deliver essential political goods to their citizens. When the Northern African countries were added to the index in 2009, Senegal's 2008 position was retroactively downgraded to 15th place. As of 2012, Senegal's rank in the Ibrahim Index has decreased another point to 16 out of 52 African countries. On the 22nd of February 2011, it was reported that Senegal has severed diplomatic ties with Iran, saying Tehran supplied rebels with weapons which killed Senegalese troops in the Casamance conflict. On the 26th of February 2012, Senegal held presidential elections which were perceived as controversial due to President Wade's candidacy. The controversy stemmed from the fact that although the Senegalese constitution did not allow a president to serve more than 2 terms, President Wade amended the constitution last year which allowed him to run for a 3rd term. Several youth opposition movements, including M23 and YEN Amara, emerged in June 2011 to contest the amendment. In the end, Macky Sall of the Alliance for the Republic won, and Wade conceded the election to Sall. This peaceful and democratic transition was hailed by many foreign observers, such as the EU, as a show of maturity. On the 19th of September 2012, lawmakers voted to do away with the Senate to save an estimated $15 million. Administrative divisions. Senegal is subdivided into 14 regions, each administered by a conseil régional elected by population weight at the arrondissement level. The country is further subdivided by 45 départements, 103 arrondissements, and by collectivités locales, which elect administrative offices. Regional capitals have the same name as their respective regions: Dakar, Diourbel, Fatick, Kaffrine, Kaolack, Kédougou, Kolda, Louga, Matam, St. Louis, Sadiao, Tambacounda, Thiès, Ziguinchor. Foreign relations. Senegal has a high profile in many international organizations and was a member of the UN Security Council in 1988–89. It was elected to the UN Commission on Human Rights in 1997. Friendly to the West, especially to France and to the United States. Senegal also is a vigorous proponent of more assistance from developed countries to the Third World. Senegal enjoys mostly cordial relations with its neighbors. In spite of clear progress on other fronts with Mauritania, there remains the problem of an estimated 30,000 Afro-Mauritanian refugees living in Senegal. Senegal is part of the Economic Community of West African States, integrated with the main bodies of the international community. Senegal is also a member of the African Union and the Community of Sahel-Saharan States. Military. The Senegalese armed forces consist of about 19,000 well-trained and disciplined personnel in the army, air force, navy, and gendarmerie. The Senegalese military force receives most of its training, equipment, and support from France and the United States. Germany also provides support, but on a smaller scale. Military non-interference in political affairs has contributed to Senegal's stability since independence. Senegal has participated in many international and regional peacekeeping missions. Most recently, in 2000, Senegal sent a battalion to the Democratic Republic of Congo to participate in MONUC, the United Nations peacekeeping mission, and agreed to deploy a United States-trained battalion to Sierra Leone to participate in UNAMSIL, another UN peacekeeping mission. In 2015, Senegal participated in the Saudi Arabian-led military intervention in Yemen against the Shia Houthis. Law. Senegal is a secular state, as defined in its constitution. To fight corruption, the government has created the National Anti-Corruption Office and the Commission of Restitution and Recovery of Illegally Acquired Assets. According to Business Anti-Corruption Portal, President Sall created the OFNAC to replace the Commission Nationale de lutte contre la non-transparence, la corruption et la concussion. It is said that the OFNAC represents a more effective tool for fighting corruption than the CNLCC established under former President Wade. The mission of OFNAC is to fight corruption, embezzlement of public funds and fraud. OFNAC has the power of self-referral. OFNAC is composed of 12 members appointed by decree. Geography. Senegal is located on the west of the African continent. It lies between latitudes 12 degrees and 17 degrees north, and longitudes 11 degrees and 18 degrees west. Senegal is externally bounded by the Atlantic Ocean to the west, Mauritania to the north, Mali to the east, and Guinea-Bissau to the south. Internally it almost completely surrounds the Gambia, namely on the north, east and south, except for Gambia's short Atlantic coastline. The Senegalese landscape consists mainly of the rolling sandy plains of the western Sahel which rise to foothills in the southeast. Here is also found Senegal's highest point, an otherwise unnamed feature near Nependayaka at 584 meters. The northern border is formed by the Senegal River. Other rivers include the Gambia and Casamance rivers. The capital Dakar lies on the Cape Verde Peninsula, the westernmost point of continental Africa. The Cape Verde Islands lie some 560 kilometers off the Senegalese coast, but Cape Verde is a maritime placemark, set at the foot of Les Mammals, a 105-meter cliff resting at one end of the Cape Verde Peninsula onto which is settled Senegal's capital Dakar, and 1 kilometer south of the Point des Almadies, the westernmost point in Africa. Climate. Senegal has a tropical climate with pleasant heat throughout the year with well-defined dry and humid seasons that result from northeast winter winds and southwest summer winds. The dry season is dominated by hot, dry, harmattan wind. Dakar's annual rainfall of about 600 mm occurs between June and October when maximum temperatures average 30 degrees Celsius and minimums 24.2 degrees Celsius. December to February maximum temperatures average 25.7 degrees Celsius and minimums 18 degrees Celsius. Interior temperatures are higher than along the coast and 32.7 degrees Celsius respectively, compared to Dakar's 23.2 degrees Celsius. and rainfall increases substantially farther south, exceeding 1,500 mm annually in some areas. In Tambacounda in the far interior, particularly on the border of Mali where desert begins, temperatures can reach as high as 54 degrees Celsius. The northernmost part of the country has a near-hot desert climate. The central part has a hot semi-arid climate and the southernmost part has a tropical wet and dry climate. Senegal is mainly a sunny and dry country. Economy. After its economy contracted by 2.1% in 1993, Senegal instituted a major economic reform program with the support of international donors. This reform began with a 50% devaluation of the country's currency. Government price controls and subsidies were also dismantled. As a result, Senegal's inflation went down, investment went up, and the gross domestic product rose approximately 5% per year between 1995 and 2001. The main industries include food processing, mining, cement, artificial fertilizer, chemicals, textiles, refining imported petroleum, and tourism. Exports include fish, chemicals, cotton, fabrics, groundnuts, and calcium phosphate. The principal foreign market is India at 26.7% of exports. Other foreign markets include the United States, Italy and the United Kingdom. Senegal has a 12 nautical mile exclusive fishing zone that has been regularly breached in recent years. It has been estimated that the country's fishermen lose 300,000 tons of fish each year to illegal fishing. The Senegalese government have tried to control the illegal fishing which is conducted by trawlers, some of which are registered in Russia, Mauritania, Belize and Ukraine. In January 2014, a Russian trawler, Oleg Nadanov, was seized by Senegalese authorities close to the maritime border with Guinea-Bissau. As a member of the West African Economic and Monetary Union, Senegal is working toward greater regional integration with a unified external tariff. Senegal is also a member of the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa. Senegal realized full internet connectivity in 1996, creating a mini-boom in information technology-based services. Private activity now accounts for 82% of its GDP. On the negative side, Senegal faces deep-seated urban problems of chronic high unemployment, socio-economic disparity, and juvenile delinquency. Senegal is a major recipient of international development assistance. Donors include the United States Agency for International Development, Japan, France and China. Over 3,000 Peace Corps volunteers have served in Senegal since 1963.